Okay, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the woods. Welcome to my stick to point out my points in this here video. On the 13th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, my name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. This is one of our videos, as we do, another date-marked documentation. In the Image Clothing Company, what are we, who are we, why are we a clothing company when our slogan is allowing the body to work? Here under our main side, one of the four sides to In the Image Clothing Company, well, clothing's the only thing physically placed on our bodies. Just the literal wording of anything clothing our bodies. Glasses, hats, jewelry, pants, tops, shoes, socks, undergarments, anything in between. Even if I took this stick and I put it over my shoulder, I'm clothing my shoulder with the stick. Okay, I'm going to use a stick here for the visual in this video because this video's title on the 13th of July 2026 under In the Image Clothing Company's main side is it's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. Let's talk about this because the human body, it's just a mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space that is our Earth. The body has measurable mathematical degrees of just hinges, levers, and rotations, and that's what it is, and that's how it functions. And that's all it could ever do is just the shape and length of our own individual bones that just grow by themselves to be what they are. We're designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. Here's your clothing company, In the Image Clothing Company, just to not alter the body. Now, there's a universal human design. You've got certain very small percentile of human beings if and where with differences, and we address those things if and where needed. But you can only be different from something, and there's just this universal design to the human being that's all the same. Same amount of bones, tendons, muscles, and ligaments. Ligaments. I said tendons and ligaments. Wow. We've got 206 bones in the body, over 600 muscles in the body. And then tendons connect these muscles to the bones. Here's my pointer stick. Wow. Welcome to the presentation. Truly. Yeah, this is great. I'm going to use this for other things as well, though, this stick in the video. Bones are only the shape and length that they are. They connect directly to each other through ligaments. So the ends of the bones are extremely specifically shaped, and the length of the bones is just what it is, and things can only possibly track in line. There's a neutral position to the entire body. So the wrist, for example, and we're going to get into this, what it means to be centered, and all opinions aside, physics and gravity. The vertical pull to the gravity of our planet Earth that comes down and meshes with the horizontal surface of the planet Earth. This is a 90-degree right perpendicular angle, okay? And that's what I'm saying is we have to stay centered over Earth's vertical gravity pull. So we do that by having a neutral position. Like standing up, you can either lean left from the neutral or centered position with the center line of our bodies meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull, or we can lean right from the neutral or centered position. So that's what I'm saying with this video's title. Holy cow. On the 13th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, it's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. And so what I mean is after years and years and years of potentially getting into chronic patterning, where we've got a neutral position, the wrist is one of these things you can see easily, visually. We like the visuals here under In the Image Clothing Company, doing so much and always under the gift, as I call it, of video, as the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company, me, Evan Strong. The wrist can come up only from the neutral position, or the wrist can go down only from the neutral position. The shoulders can come up only from the neutral position, or they can go down only from the neutral position. The shoulders come forward from the neutral position or backward from the neutral position. Everything in the entire body, there's a neutral position to it. The feet, they lift up, dorsiflexion from the neutral position, or they point down, plantar flexion from the neutral position. There's always just a neutral. The body has opposing muscles to every function. So this opposing pole of muscles from each function's neutral position stabilizes us in the neutral position. Okay? So if we're not able to just be neutrally positioned on Earth's vertical gravity pole, with the vertical pole of gravity meshing with the center line of our bodies, okay, like the spine, the sternum, the trachea, the nose, the jaw, all these things are in the center line of the body, like the feet, evenly opposing the center line of the body at our foundation, gripping arches inward with musculature activation to stabilize us vertically on Earth's vertical gravity pole. This is what I'm saying. You know, there's no opinion to being centered or not as far as like wanting to, or it's not some kind of like, you know, spirituality kind of thing. If we're talking about the physical mechanical machine of the human being, designed in the image of God, it's physics. You have to stay centered. You've got an arm on one side and an arm on the other side, and they each weigh the amount they weigh to evenly oppose the center. You've got a leg on one side and a leg on the other side, and they each are the length that they are to evenly oppose the center. You have to stay centered. It's physical mechanics. Hinges, levers, and rotations, okay? The human being only could ever possibly do what it does. But we get into chronic patterning, and we do. Why do we? Well, we have a physical body. So what's the only thing physically placed on our physical bodies? Clothing. The literal word of clothing. Anything at all placed onto our bodies, the way that God clothes the fields with grass, as it says in the Holy Bible, or we could say this whole dirt area is being clothed with all this greenery and vegetation, these plants that are growing here. Just anything placed onto anything else. And so what happens is, if our clothing doesn't mesh with our bodies the only way our bodies work, we're having to work around our clothing. Again, the literal word of anything clothing us at all as a human being. Because everything we do in our lives, we're doing it in and through whatever is literally clothing us. So, at very baseline, clothing has to at least stay centered, just meshing with the center line of our bodies, and then evenly opposing from there, because we've got even opposing musculature. From the center line of our bodies. There's only one way the human body could ever work. The bones just grow by themselves, and that's all they are for the rest of your life once you're full grown. Yeah. God does that. You couldn't take credit for it. I couldn't take credit for it. We couldn't take any credit for the information we have under In the Image Clothing Company, so don't believe us. Truth is truth, though. We don't get to decide it or change it as human beings. But don't believe our team members under In the Image Clothing Company, even any of our poodles, with any of our information. Over under In the Image Clothing Company poodles, one of our fourths. The point is, no matter how crazy anything sounds that anyone says, if it's true, it's true. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And we discuss the anatomy of the human body in such thorough depth here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side specifically as one of our fourths, you couldn't possibly dispute what we're saying because it's not our choice. Okay. But yeah, clothing having to stay centered also has to fit correct. There's no opinion to where that is. We discuss very clearly under In the Image Clothing Company where clothing has to sit on this universal human design because gravity has the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. We've just got joints of material of clothing needing to mesh with joints of body parts as close as we can. We've got angles of hinges, levers, and rotations determined by the shape and length of our bones that we're just physically clothing with something. Okay? Clothing also has to be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. It has to, because matter cannot be created or destroyed. God made the earth. He created it out of nothing, essentially. And then he made the human beings and placed them onto the earth. Okay? That's just what it is. We eat food. Either it's plants that grow from the planet Earth or animals that ate plants that grow from the planet Earth. It becomes the human being. The human being dies and decomposes back to the earth. It's always the same stuff. It just takes a different shape and It's the same form, essentially. Physics, you know? So here's the thing. Clothing, it's just the only thing physically placed on our physical bodies. And so, over years of potentially imbalanced clothing, and potentially extremely imbalanced clothing, some things are these oversized clothing. When we don't have joints of material meshing with joints of body parts, it pulls down on the body, and chronic patterning gets built up in the body. Scar tissue, bone spurs, damage to the body, because we're just trying to work around something physically placed on us that's just physically in the way of our physical bones. Connecting the only way they do, directly through ligaments. Bones are essentially sticks, just immovable by themselves, only moving where they connect to another stick. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's always been the exact same, and it always will be the exact same. Every body who has one, and everyone who has a body, is who our information applies to under In the Image Clothing Company, our 5-word company name. But here you go, okay? Imbalances, shoelaces, and drawstrings, for example. Anything that's a rope tied on or around the body in any way, we can tie one side over the other and twist the entire body with just a knot. And now you've got this happening day after day, month after month. We can skip the weeks so you can go back to them week after week, year after year, for the rest of your life, maybe, or just about. Your body gets damaged, all right? Zippers, buttons, pockets, anything at all in clothing, seams in modern 2026 and going forth, if, you know, robots stitch our clothing and they rotate our seams. And we can twist the entire body and get into chronic patterning, okay, from there. So, anyway, what I'm saying is a lot of people are in very deep imbalances in modern day, 2026, and going forth, living in this modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth. There's a lot of things that damage our bodies, and we don't know about it at all. There's a video under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, currently titled Physically Weak People. And it's not like I'm pointing fingers at people because it's their fault they're physically weak in that video's explanation. But the point is, there's a lot of things in modern day, man-made, that physically weaken our bodies. It's just like anything physically placed onto us that we're just having to work essentially through in our lives. And if it's not just meshing with our bodies, the only way our bodies mesh, you know, then the body will try to do all it can to work around these things, and problems come in the body. And so it's deep, you know. You've got over 600 muscles in the body, you've got over 200 bones, and you've got all this stuff just happening, constantly breathing and blinking your eyes and pumping your blood, although you're not doing it. God's doing it for us. It's just happening, you know, but it all has to work all together. The entire body's connected. It's all a kinetic chain. It's just a bone connecting to a bone, connecting to a bone, connecting to a bone, and then another bone connects to that one, and it keeps going through the body, and that's just how the body works, is it's all connected. The jaw stabilizes the entire body. In the center line of the body, look at the collar of my top. Look at my necklace. It's 17 inches, and there's a reason I say that, for the sake of keeping collars centered and the importance of snug collars. They're huge focuses under In the Image Clothing Company. Our jaw, this lower jawbone, has musculature up to the crown of the head, almost to the top of the head here, on either side of the head, down to some of these upper ribs, and it actually aids in breathing, okay, and out to the edges of our shoulders. Going through the collars of our tops, though, is where this musculature down here below the lower jawbone is going. Look at my top collar move and my necklace move. We have a lot of videos currently, as of the 13th of July, 2026, today's date, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, where you are here, about the jaw of the human being, as we discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth. And I stand here now with a pointer. It's a stick. The jaw has to stay centered, and so here's some context, because let's talk about this. This video's title, on the 13th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, getting centered is a challenge But staying centered is easy. Now here's the thing. When I say getting centered, let's talk about the truth for a second. Or ideally always, only, and ever, but we're imperfect human beings that need to rely on a perfect God. But the truth is, God designed the body to work. That's why we have it. That's why we have this mechanical machine we call the human being, is to take us across this planet Earth. That's the only reason it exists, is to be able to do what it's supposed to do. And what is it? Like we say, truly, it's a hinge and lever system with rotations. It's a mechanical machine. Fueled by food, lubricated by water. It's just a machine. Truly. Really. Like, seriously, physically, it's just a machine. The human body. So, yeah. God designed it to work. He designed it to be this machine that it is. And sure, if you're born with a deformity or an amputation happens along the way, or you've got something different about your body that doesn't really allow it to walk and work what we could say as properly, all right, we address these things if and where needed. But we've got to look at this broad spread universal human design to understand what we could need to address to get to this. This centered nature of standing vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. God designed the body to work. Look at all the animals, they just work. Look at all the human beings, they get into chronic patterning. But we make our own man-made world. Animals don't, really. They just live in nature, as human beings always did until we invented things. Man, I know what I'm talking about. This is crazy. Yeah, it's just as real as it is. It's the truth. I mean, the body just has to work or it doesn't. Above the hips, the spine is in the very center line of the body. The spine is a lot of little bones. They call them vertebrae. Those people who came up with the terminology, okay? These bones stacking, and the spine supports this 10-pound ball of weight. It's about 10 pounds, give or take, on top of our bodies at the very highest point when we're standing with our arms down at our sides. And it comes down, this spine of ours, to the top of the pelvis, to the top of the hips. And it's the only vertical support above the hips when it comes to bone for the entire body. It's in the direct center, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull. Okay? Even opposing musculature on either side of the spine stabilizes us centered and vertical over Earth's vertical gravity pull. Alright, so you have to stay centered, but why do we even talk about getting centered then, if the body should and does, if not altered, just grow centered? It's gravity, it's physics. It's outside of all of us. It's universal laws we all have to abide by, even if we don't want to. Lawnmower noise. Welcome to In the Image Clothing Company's blunt, bold, raw, and real approach to existence. Just is what it is. I'm not so fond of it, but it is what it is. Well, after years of getting into chronic patterning, and yes, it comes through clothing, it's as obvious as it is once you see it. Just like this. I couldn't make it up. How many times have you heard me say, if you have, I've documented it so many times, surrounding sounds come up once I start filming videos under In the Image Clothing Company. No matter how secluded I try to get down here in the woods by the river. The lawnmower noise, it's insane. Airplanes, wind noise, whatever it is. When I start speaking truth. That's insane. Seriously, that's insane. That's insane. That's insane. Earth's vertical gravity pull. Okay? This video's title, the 13th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. Okay? The thing is, years and years of patterning getting built up in the body, we get twisting happening in the body. The body has rotations. Internal rotation versus external rotation. And what happens is, one side of the body will be an internal rotation if the other side of the body is an external rotation. Because now my spine's still centered in the center of my body, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull. When I've got differences in rotations from left to right, accommodating from the center line at the spine. Okay? I mean, what do you do in a situation like this? This far through the video. Right? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? There's actually people down here too. Like, what in the world, brother? That lawnmower noise is insane. I couldn't make it up, dude. Couldn't make it up.
Dude, watch this so fast. To like, or just drop it off. Oh, he's probably gonna get cold in on it. Who's cold? There's like a stuff done. And that's done. Who's that? Good. Are you
It's just another date marks documentation. Yeah. If you don't think I'm patient, you don't know what's up. We'll be into In the Image Clothing Company 2 years on the 23rd of September this year, 2026. And it's the 13th of July today. So, we're coming up on 2 years of In the Image Clothing Company. In just a little over a month and a half, give or take, right? Well, anyway, around 2 months. Yeah, a little over 2 months, I guess. I haven't made a single amount at all. None. No money, no currency, no monetary value from doing anything I've done for this 5-word company name with 4 sides to it. In the Image Clothing Company. Me, Evan Strong, the founder and leader for life. If you don't think I'm patient, it doesn't matter what you think, but if you're wondering, yeah, I'm patient. 600 plus videos under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company alone as of today's date, the 13th of July, 2026. Hundreds of pieces of music I've made under In the Image Clothing Company Music, another one of our fourths. 209 episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, another one of our fourths, with discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, just deep insights on life, even if you're not religious. In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, another one of our fourths. So we've got maybe 60-something videos, 70, maybe, somewhere close-ish to 100 videos, between 50 and 100 probably. You know, the amount of stuff that I do show is absolutely nothing, percentage-wise, compared to how much actually happens that I just don't keep under video, because a lot of times that wouldn't be needed, to just stand there and wait for that lawnmower to take that long to be able to just have some relative quiet to film just a date-marked documentation as our insurance policy, to show congruency, to prove, if you will, longevity, to show the truth of what we're doing here, and that we don't have any kind of opinion that we're trying to preach or push or sell under In the Image Clothing Company, or even get you on board with. The truth of God. There's only one way the human body could ever possibly physically, mechanically operate. It just grows by itself. The bones are just what determines how it functions. It's just a mechanical machine. The shape and length of the bones in this universal human design, connecting directly to each other through ligaments, working with physical laws like gravity, universal things outside of all of us. I'm just documenting truth. Clothing, the literal wording of anything physically placed on our bodies at all, and just not altering our bodies, how the body connects mechanically, that you can mathematically measure the anatomy of the body we discuss in depth here under In the Image Clothing Company. We give so much free information. It's all just free. Up until today's date, almost 2 full years into the founding of In the Image Clothing Company, everything I've done, and it's been almost every single day that I've filmed a video in some form for In the Image Clothing Company. We got well over the amount of videos as the amount of days we've had since the founding. You know, filming multiple videos a day. It's just about the truth. It's about documenting things that won't change to last for my grandkids, great-great-grandkids, grandkids, and so forth. It would have applied to my great-grandparents, great-grandparents, and back, too. Everybody who has one, everyone who has a body. In the Image Clothing Company's information, that's who it applies to. No matter what, even if you're different from the universal human design. I'm out here making free public documentations of truth. And I just have to be patient. It's been almost 2 years. I've had really almost no measurable compensation from this out of like a company's lens of looking at what this is under In the Image Clothing Company. I stand out here and I wait out sounds from the flight school that's just a few miles away in this town here that I've spent the most time in since the founding of In the Image Clothing Company almost 2 years ago. The lawnmower noise that just randomly comes. People coming through the video, which it's in a public place, but it just, I couldn't make it up, and I don't care how much I sound like I'm pouting or exaggerating or trying to make it be something it isn't. These things happen once I start recording. And I have no right to complain. I get that. In public places, anything can happen. I'm just one of the people here. But why I'm saying this, and why I'm documenting this is still the video on the 13th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, titled, "It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered." I'm still filming this. I'm still documenting it. I might chop it up and put it in multiple different parts when I actually post it publicly for people to see. But because I'm going to just be real with this. Like I say, blunt, bold, raw, and real, In the Image Clothing Company style. A lot of people don't show you what they have to battle through behind the scenes when it comes to anything in life. Their career, their family life, you know, anything they're working toward, any kind of goal, their progression in something. A lot of people just show you their highlight reels. They just show you everything once it's done and just claim that it went so well and was so easy. Or maybe you just believe that it went so well and was so easy. Just to film a simple documentation that in ways I'm intentionally making kind of silly, waving this stick around like a pointer, but I'm really documenting permanent pieces of eternal truth. And here's an airplane, if you can hear it. I've got a t-shirt wrapped around the microphone of this device so that I can shield some of the wind noise, and just the surrounding sounds will probably be lessened with their volume in the microphone. I'm doing what I can, but this is just a testimony, if you will, as I start choking up, because it really is, of not giving up. I've said since the very founding of In the Image Clothing Company, date marked and documented, posted public, find it where you find it. The first time you can see that I said it, just the point is I've been saying it since the very early stages, like within the first few weeks or months of In the Image Clothing Company, that we have, always will be, and just are huge as In the Image Clothing Company, because it's the truth within this. It's the permanence. It's God. It's Jesus Christ's perfection. That He does everything and we can just learn how to understand it. We can just learn how to work with it. The orchestrator of everything going on, the human being and the planet it's placed onto. And everything else in this whole universe. Doesn't seem so universal to a lot of people. I'm not giving up. I know what I'm doing here. I know the importance of this. In the scriptures, they talk about a pearl of great price, or something that a lot of people would pass over and not see the worth within. I know what I'm doing here, meaning I know what I have been given here by God. The understanding I have personally, Evan Strong, of the anatomy of the human being and why it's not working in the cases it isn't, in modern 2026 and going forth. The goal is natural on all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. And natural is always what's here. That's it. Unnatural gets taken from natural, but it always changes. It always decomposes back to natural. I am patient. I have to be. What I'm saying is, no matter how worked up I sound right now, or any time that's even more than this, at all, with anything in life, it's because I'm persistent. It's because I'm determined. It's because I have a goal here that I know is as impactful and purposeful and valuable as I'm making it out to be. And good things take time. So if you don't think I'm patient, it doesn't matter what you think of me. But maybe what I'm trying to say really is just know that I am patient. Because otherwise this wouldn't work. Know that for you personally, just us all being human beings, the same thing placed on the same earth, designed by the same God, you have to be patient. With certain things in life, it will never happen if you don't take the amount of time that may seem like a long time with certain things that it actually takes to do it. We're governed by time as human beings. We are battling ourselves as human beings. And I could sit here and get all upset about things, and to a degree I get upset, and I'm raising my voice, and I'm all yelling about stuff. A lot of that's just out of passion with no kind of upset behind it, or like, negative emotion in certain times. But a lot of times I do get upset, yeah. But I don't give up. Just in general, me, Evan Strong. But under In The Image Clothing Company, as the founder, we are changing lives with this. It's not something for me to get benefit and profit and gain from. I mean, yeah, that'll come, because I have to continue to live and eat and make a living, and there's things I have need to do in my life, even through the enjoyment that will come, because we need to have a balance in our lives. And this will profit me personally and my family and my posterity. But the reason In The Image Clothing Company is here is to change lives. You don't have to care about fashion. You don't have to care about clothing. You don't have to care at all. But you only have this one body, and clothing is the only thing physically placed on it. We don't even have to call it clothing. We can just say, don't alter your body. It's all you've got. What's physically placed on your body has got the highest potential to alter your body, so don't do that. But you don't know if you don't know, so let's get free information under In The Image Clothing Company. I'm patient. I'm not trying to prove something. But what I'm doing is giving encouragement to all those people out there that want to give up when something doesn't work right away. What I'm doing is documenting and date marking what's happening, showing it publicly, the successes and the failures, the struggles and the things that just go so easy. As the founder and leader for life of In The Image Clothing Company, I had no idea what I was doing when I started, and look where I'm at now. You're current now, or as close to it as you can get if I'm dead and gone by this time you're seeing this. I'm just not giving up. I'm taking that as a snippet out of this full video, but I'm going to just keep filming this video as it is. As I'm saying that and starting to get into the discussion of the video's title again, here comes an airplane. Which I can't really complain about, but I have to deal with it if I'm in this town or the surrounding area with a flight school. And that's hard. Something I didn't choose, We all have things like this in life. Life's going to smack you in the face and throw you in the dirt. Time and time and time again. If you give up, you gave up. But if you don't give up, then you can keep trying. You give up on the 99th and maybe the 100th time it would have worked. Or the 100th day, or whatever it is like that. Just keep trying, bro. A message to myself, a message to the human race, and a thank you of gratitude to God, to Jesus the Christ, for being my strength when I don't have it, because this is insane. Yeah. So, I'm going to just go from here with the rest of the video, alright? The 13th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here. It is what it is. This video's title, it's easy... You know what it's easy to do is give up. Anyone can give up, but who can really endure to the end, as it says in the scriptures? Jesus Christ says, endure to the end. No matter what you're going through, endure it. Do it. Push through it. Keep going. It says in Scripture, we will be tempted with nothing that's above what we can handle. But we've got to be willing to handle it. Call on the name of Jesus Christ to help us handle things, but it's just insane sometimes. And what's insane is trying to do it alone, and so that's where this underlying understanding always remains, that if you wait it out, if you pray through it, if you be patient, if you ask Jesus Christ, God himself, for help, even if it doesn't come in our own timing, God's perfect. He's almighty, and he loves us, even sinners like me. So welcome to permanence, because this is what it looks like a lot of the time. It's hard. Here we go. The 13th of July, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main side. It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered, okay? A lot of discussion up until now in this video, but here we go, okay? The thing is, chronic patterning in the body, getting built up. When I talk about getting centered being the challenge, and God designing the body to work, it was just centered unless we get into chronic patterning that causes us to be in an imbalance. We live in a right-handed world. As one of the big things, 85%, maybe 90% of human beings across the planet Earth are right-handed. So we get into a pattern where we're using the right side of our bodies more than the left, and if you're left-handed, maybe it's the other way around. Unless you're actually centered and ambidextrous, able to use both sides of your body equally, you're in an imbalance. There's two sides to the body. There's a vertical pull to gravity that meshes with the center of the body, okay? Chronic patterning, years and years, getting built up in the body from, most directly, the physical thing physically placed on our physical bodies, clothing. Okay, the only thing physically placed on us, the literal word, everything we do, everything you do in life, you're doing it in and through your clothing. So what happens is, if we've got imbalances in our bodies, it's a challenge to get from this imbalanced state to a centered state. But now once you're centered, it's easier to stay there. That's why I have the stick. Whatever stick I use in this video, is because if you start with a stick on the palm of your hand on an angle and try to get it balanced, it's a challenge. To get it balanced on Earth's vertical gravity pull, starting from a sideways position, horizontal more than vertical, right, on an angle like this, you have to have a challenge to get to that balanced centered point, right? But then once you're there, it's so much easier to stay centered than it was to go from an uncentered state and get centered, okay? That's what I'm saying with this video's title. Because with the human body, it's a challenge to get centered after getting into patterning. We've got years of our lives, like me personally, as the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company is the point of me speaking personally here. I took about 20 years getting into patterning deeply through a lot of things that we discuss, and I'll say some here, but this whole 20-year depth of getting into patterning in the body, like a right-handed pattern. When the spine's now off to the side, the jaw is off to the side, the musculature is contracted differently off to the side, the rotations are more external on the right side and internal on the left side. From this right-handed pattern alone, just meaning a generalized right-handed patterning, just using your right side for things in life more than your left side for things in life, because the vertical support of our bodies is in the center, so we have to pivot around it because of Earth's vertical gravity pull. And being in a right-handed patterning, it's a challenge to get centered. But once you're centered, it's fairly easy. I mean, really, it's pretty easy as long as you're intentional from that point forth to just stay centered. Because now you're just having either side you can be on, the left or the right, on Earth's vertical gravity pull. If you're always stuck on the right side in a right-handed patterning, it's a challenge to get all the way off of your right side to center, to be able to even go left at all. Once you get centered, though, it's pretty easy to be able to go left or right, right? It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. Much easier, at least. Much easier to stay centered than it is to get centered out of patterning. And so, you know, we rid chronic patterning here under In the Image Clothing Company. That's really what it means to allow the body to work, is either never get it into chronic patterning. Chronic just means life-lasting. Until addressed or fixed, it's essentially permanent. You know, if you're permanently stuck on your right side because you're right-handed, it's just hard to get the body centered. It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. This video is titled on the 13th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here. So there's a lot of things, you know, eating with just your right hand, your jaw has a center. And so it can be a challenge to get your teeth centered from being off to the right side, because it's your teeth wearing off to the right side as they mesh top and bottom teeth together. But it's your jaw musculature going through the collars of your tops that need to stay centered and snug, right? It moves off to the right side in a right-handed patterning. Now your head tilts off to the right side, and your spine coming up, connecting into your head, is twisting off to the right side. Down to your hips, they're twisting off to the right side. External rotation on the right side and internal rotation on the left. Down to your toes, you're off to the right side, through your whole legs. More collapsed and pronated on the right foot, and more internal on the left foot. Right, external on the right side, though, it's a challenge to get centered, but then it's easy to stay centered, because now you can have both sides to accommodate with. If you can't accommodate from left to right, but you're stuck on one side like the right side, there's no accommodation. You can't even get to the center to be able to try to go left until you can. So once you get centered, now you have this accommodation to stay centered. We're talking about deep scar tissue, bone misshapening, okay? Bone spurs. And problems in the body where even the organs are sitting in different places than they naturally would. When we're talking about chronic patterning, when we're talking about what we do under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here, with allowing the body to work being our slogan. So going from eating with only your right hand to being able to eat with both hands, it's a challenge to get the whole jaw and the teeth and the neck musculature and the head and the spine and then the pelvis and the legs and the arms all back to the center from being off to the right with the jaw. But once you get to the center, now you've got both sides to accommodate with. The jaw can go left or it can go right. And so now you've got this accommodation that makes it easy, much easier to stay centered once you get centered. So that's things like eating. You know, we discuss eating and drinking with the left hand, meaning just the non-dominant hand, but really just both hands and centered. Because the lower jaw bone is just a hinge joint. The jaw of the human being plays into eating, speaking, breathing, and stabilization of the entire body. And it's doing these things for the entire body. There's only one way the human body could ever work on this vertical pull to gravity, with the center line of our bodies, meshing with it. And one of those things is the jaw. But it's so much easier to stay centered once you get there. But it's a challenge to get centered, right? This video is titled the 13th of July, 2026 under In The Image Clothing Company's main site. It's a challenge to get centered. But then it's easy to stay centered, right? It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. Okay, so that's eating, one of the big things. Anything that we could ever talk about playing into a right-handed patterning is just what it is. And sure, again, if you're left-handed, there you go. It's just much less common for people to be. But, yeah, we talk about tying knots on the body, and you're just twisting a rope one side over the other. People tie a rope around their waist, like I've done here, a drawstring. Although it's so common to just tie it one side over the other, and now your whole body's twisted. External rotation on one side and internal rotation on the other, just pivoting around the center line of the body at the spine, because there's still the vertical gravity pull that we have to stay as meshed with as we can on Earth's surface, just to be able to even try to stand, or try to sit, or even try to breathe, because there's even bones and even musculature opposing the center line of the body. And some of those bones are the rib bones, so just breathing takes the entire body to some degree to stabilize. And every single breath we take, the rib cage expands and contracts all the way around. But even just breathing, it's hard. To get centered, it's a challenge. But once you are centered, it's easy to stay centered, right? It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered because of gravity, because it's a pendulum, because it's a balance point, because there's a center line to the body, because there's always opposing muscles to a neutral position, and muscles pull on either side to stabilize us in that neutral position. Because just standing alone, we have 2 feet evenly opposing the center line, gripping arches inward at our foundation to keep us vertical. Things like In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, just the only way the top of the feet are shaped, and we're just weaving a rope across the top of the feet. But, it's easy to stay centered if you have even opposing foundations from the center line of your body. Years and years within tying shoes unevenly, like both feet to the right, for example, or shoelacing techniques that are just differently laced on top of the feet rather than evenly opposing the center line of the body. It's a challenge to get those feet to go from their imbalanced state to being able to be balanced. We come down from the spine to the hips and we split off, the spine being in the center line. Once it gets to the hips, that's when it splits off this separation of support in the body, and there's a leg on either side, evenly opposing the center. And so if our legs are evenly opposing the center line of the body, then it's pretty easy to stay centered. You've got a support over here and a support over here, evenly opposing the center. But if we have to first get centered from an imbalanced chronic patterning state of being, it's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. And a lot of this is just that it's permanence, and that's what I'm saying. There's episodes of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, right? One of our 4 is under In The Image Clothing Company with discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. But one of them is titled, It's Not a Walk in the Park. And then I also reference another episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast back to back with this one, like next to each other when I reference them. which is it will never be the same. Well, actually, I think it's just titled Never Be the Same, but it's not a walk in the park, meaning it's not an easy thing to do. Like this video's title on the 13th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, it's a challenge to get centered. But it's easy to stay centered. Also saying it will never be the same. It'll never be the same again. If you get out of the patterning to a centered position, things want to stay centered. Earth's gravity pull just is vertical, and things just mesh with it. But if they're not, and we have to get centered first, that's the challenge. And once we're there, it's much easier to stay centered than this, what can be truly an extreme challenge to get centered and rid chronic patterning. So, I mean, it just is what it is, you know. I just want to make it clear that there's kind of two parts to this, where this whole process of what you've watched me, or what you're able to watch me, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company and the leader for life, do up until now, the 13th of July, 2026, and around this time, you know, we've almost had 2 years of In The Image Clothing Company until right now, since the 23rd of September, 2024. And you've been able to watch, as I say, and I say it for the truth of what's really happening and why, and the permanent documentation and the credibility and the context, my physical and visual transformation in my own body, mechanically, being able to physically operate, just being this mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space that the human being is. I've gone before and I've done this whole process of it being a challenge to get centered, so that now I can show how it truly is easy, much easier, but yes, truly, as long as you're intentional, it is easy to stay centered. Because it's mechanics. Because there's two sides to the body, and they have to first just be evenly displaced with the weight before you can have accommodation to just stay even. You have to get there from patterning. You know, oversized clothing with just the right side of a top just being off the right shoulder so much more than the left, we have to have even opposing musculature from the center line of our bodies into the bone in the center, like the spine or the sternum in the front too, but the spine's the vertical support above the hips. The sternum just connects the ribs to the spine so that they can be supported. Okay. Like, I know what I'm talking about with this, and I just say that to show the truth. I say that to change lives. It's only what it is. The bones are only the shape and length that they are within the universal human design. And so, from this point forth, me personally, I'll be experiencing this. It's easy to stay centered. And a lot of people experience this almost their whole life. That's a huge point to hit. Some people grow up tying their shoes nice and evenly, wearing clothing that fits them nice and snug. Maybe it's not completely centered because there's a lot of imbalances in modern clothing, you know, from a lot of designs, universal clothing imbalances shipped across the entire earth in ways that never could have happened in the past, because we've got technology for these things to happen. Things like robots stitching clothing, and then just the ways we can ship things we discuss here under In The Image Clothing Company, specifically here under our main side, one of our fourths often, right? But a lot of people grow up and their bodies physically, literally grow quite centered. And they just about are almost always through their whole life in this state of, yeah, it's fairly easy to stay centered. Physically, mechanically, this mechanical machine of the human being on Earth's vertical gravity pull, this universal law outside of all of us and this universal human design. But other people, and I'm one of them personally, the founder and leader for life of In The Image Clothing Company, Evan Strong, who I grew up tying my shoes unevenly, both to the right side, wearing oversized clothing for most of my life until about 3 years ago when I was about 24 years old. And a lot of things like tying drawstring knots around my waist to hold my pants up is just a rope with one side over the other in a right-handed knot, matching my shoes, both being tied in a right-handed knot, to the right side, you know, eating with just my right hand only for almost my entire life. I'm only speaking personally to relate. Because I'm the one that stands here and points fingers and speaks so bold and harsh and says, there's no opinion to blank, 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 and blank, because there isn't. Not my own either. Universal is universal. There's a universal human design. God designed it. There's a universal pull to gravity. God designed it. There's a universal horizontal surface to the earth. God designed it. There's a universal way that physics work. God designed it. You going to try to take credit for it? I'm not. And whether you are, that's not really the point. You know, trying to take credit for it. I'm just pointing us to the truth. Truly, physically, as in physics, mathematics, Earth's gravity, the human being essentially being sticks, these bones that just connect directly through ligaments, it really is a challenge to get centered, but easy to stay centered. And that's the point that I'm making, is it's worth it. Earlier through this video, when it was like 10 minutes or whatever it was, maybe it wasn't that long, maybe it was longer, maybe it just felt long and it was only a few minutes or something. I was waiting out the lawnmower noise that happened part of the way through this video. It started out nice and quiet like this. Then the lawnmower noise was very loud for the sake of trying to document what I am here under In The Image Clothing Company's main site on the 13th of July 2026, right? It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. We have to get there first, and it's worth it. Like I was saying with the patience, how patient I've been, and I'm not trying to convince anyone, but I'm giving context because I'll be doing this the rest of my entire life, and you can follow along the journey of all this and the progression of any part of this in my own personal life, and then In The Image Clothing Company itself as the company, and then the team as it builds, and our impact and depth of understanding and explanation of what we do here under any of the four sides of In The Image Clothing Company. I've been so patient with this, and a lot of what I've been patient with as well is all the pain. There's a lot of physical pain that comes where it does, but it does. Rating chronic patterning in the body. We're breaking up bone spurs where the bone has unnaturally excessively grown in the body from not working in an inline position for years. However long it is personally for you, but for me it was years. A lot of years, like 20 years. With a lot of these same things causing the same imbalances in my own personal situation, in my physical body, a lot of them being the only thing physically placed on me, the literal word of clothing, day after day after day after day, a lot of it being things like knots and ropes, shoelaces and drawstrings, for example. Things in my pockets, oversized clothing, rotating seams in clothing, you know, all these things and much more. We discuss it thoroughly under In The Image Clothing Company. What's causing these patterns in the body, there's no opinion to it. It's physics. We just don't know what we don't know. And what we don't know is, a lot of times at least, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I mean it. Like, I mean it so much so that I couldn't make it up. I'm documenting the journey, and you just watch this. And relate it to yourself is the point. There's a universal human design. My body was in terrible, terrible, terrible patterning. I mean, like, worse than most people that I see with my depth of knowledge and understanding of the anatomy of the human body and what's going on in modern day with the modern man-made world and clothing imbalances and just lifestyle choices and eating things and how we stand and sit and walk and sleep and stay hydrated and what's in our food and just all the things we discuss under In The Image Clothing Company and more than that as well. But my body personally, as the founder and leader for life of In The Image Clothing Company, was in deeper, and we can truly say this properly, worse chronic patterning and misalignment and damage than most people I see. I mean it. But you have to be patient. It's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay centered. It's because of these universal laws. It's because of hinges, levers, and rotations and how this just works. It's because of gravity. It's because of inertia. It's because of something physically placed in our way, literally clothing us, that doesn't work for our bodies if it doesn't. It's because the hand is just a pendulum from the other end of the shoulder. It's because there's a neutral to the feet, which is the horizontal surface of the earth. It's because the pelvis has the same neutral as the bottom of the feet. It's because the jaw stabilizes the entire body. It's because we have to constantly breathe, which uses the entire body to do, or else we don't even stay alive. It's because there's a balance and regulation between hydration and food, lubrication versus fuel in the body. These are the reasons that it's actually pretty darn easy to stay centered, but only after the challenge of getting there if you're not already there. And it just varies. We're different as human beings. We live different lives. We live in different cultures, different countries and continents, and different parts of the earth. We have access to different things. We have different amounts of knowledge and just understanding of life from person to person. We have entirely different journeys here on this planet Earth, and a lot of people don't have as many physical struggles and challenges as other people do. We struggle with different problems in the same ways and the same problems in different ways. We're just individuals as human beings. Like me, for example, I've had 2 full open heart surgeries and some other minor heart surgeries, and I've had injuries where I have, more like sprains and things like that. Not broken bones, but people have amputations. Now it's a challenge to get centered, but it's easy to stay there because it's a balance point on Earth's vertical gravity pole. Do you see what I mean? This is the reason we are in the Image Clothing Company. This is the reason I have the passion behind what I do. This is the reason I'm screaming at the lawnmower noise and the airplane noise and the surrounding sounds. And this is why I talk about it when these things truly do come up when I start to film videos. Because it's as real as it gets. It's as obvious as it is once you see it. It's truly physics. And things only balance how they balance. Muscles only contract how muscles contract. Earth's vertical gravity pull is always vertical, and the human being has to mesh with it. So there's a lot more I could say in this video, and there's just a lot we'll say as time progresses. I'll probably take a snippet out of the middle part of this video with all that waiting for the noise. But I'll probably post just the entire thing as well, so you can just see what it is. I mean, the information's here.